Hello and welcome. In this video, we are discussing example on Z parameter or open circuit parameter. This is a question. Find Z parameter for the network shown. So this is a two-port network is given and here these are the elements. Elements are only registers and its value it is given. This is input voltage, input current, output voltage, output current. Now these are the four variable V1, I1, V2, I2 and we have to find Z parameter. Now we know in Z parameter we are expressing V1 and V2 as a function of I1 and I2. For details watch the previous video. These are the standard equations of Z parameter. V1 is equal to Z11 I1 plus Z12 I2 and V2 is equal to Z21 I1 plus Z22 I2. That is V1 and V2 are expressed as a function of I1 and I2. And we have to find this Z11, Z12, Z21, Z22. Now there are two different methods available. We know that Z parameter, another name is open circuit impedance parameter. That means to find Z11 and Z21, we open circuit output port, that is we are making I2 is equal to 0. That's why we have to make this output port open circuit. And to find Z12 and Z21, we have to make I1 0 means this input port should be open circuited. So we can find this Z11, Z21 or Z12, Z22 by making one port open circuit and then another port open circuit. But instead of that, the easiest solution and the method which I prefer is the different one. That means I am applying here KVL to the each loop and I am trying to express V1 and V2 as a function of I1 and I2 so that equation I can compare with the standard equation to get these Z parameters. So first step, apply KVL. So there are three loops. This is first loop, second loop and third loop. So we'll assume loop current to apply the KVL. So this is I1, first loop current. I2, this is second loop current. Now here direction of I2 is given. That's why I am assuming this direction of I2. And this is third loop. We'll assume loop current I3. Now let's apply KVL to the first loop. First loop or first mesh. KVL V1 is equal to 1 I1 plus 2 I1 flows like this, and in the same register I2 flows in a I3 flows in a opposite direction. So what will be the KVL? V1 is equal to 1 I1 plus 2 I1 minus I3. Now let's solve this. Separate this term, combine the I1 term. So we'll get first equation V1 is equal to 3 I1 minus 2 I3. Now second, apply KVL to the second loop. Second loop, V2 is equal to 2, I2 flows like this and I3 flows in the same direction. So V2 is equal to 2 I2 plus I3 because both I1 and I2 flows in the same direction. So we'll get this equation V2 is equal to 2 I2 plus 2 I3. Apply KVL to the mesh 3, this one. So what will be the 2? Now I3 in this direction and I1 in the opposite direction. So 2 into I3 minus I1 plus 1 into I3. And here plus 2 into I2 flows in this direction and I3 also flows in this direction. So 2 I3 plus I2. Both are in the same direction. That's why plus. Let's solve this. Separate the terms and combine the similar currents. So from this equation, we'll find I3 because we want to express V1 and V2 as a function of I1 and I2. But here it is I3. Here also it is I3. We have to replace this I3. So we can replace this I3 from this third equation. So let's see. These are the three equations we have received. Now this third equation we'll use to put it in a first and second. So let's substitute equation 3 in equation 1 and we'll get this equation 1. We'll substitute I3, solve this, combine the I1 terms. So we'll get V1 is equal to 11 by 5 I1 plus 4 by 5 I2. Now here V1 is a function of I1, I2 and that we want to find the Z parameter. So next put this I3 in equation 2 to replace this I3. So this is equation 2. We'll put the value of I3. Solve this, combine the I1 terms, I2 terms and we'll get this one. Now here V2 is function of I1 and I2. So for Z parameter, we want V1 and V2 as a function of I1 and I2. These two equations we can compare with our standard Z parameter equation. Compare with the standard Z parameter equations. These are the standard Z parameter equation. V1 as a function of I1, I2. V2 as a function of I1, I2. So compare this. V1, V1 is equal to I1, I1. So this is Z11 is equal to 11 by 5. I2, I2. Z12 is equal to 4 by 5. Similarly, V2, V2. I1, I1. So Z21 is 4 by 5. And I2, I2, Z22 is 6 by 5. Thus, we got here individual Z parameters and we can write this in a matrix form. So this is how we can find the Z parameter. We have just checked what are the loops. We have applied the KVL because we want to express V1 and V2 as a function of I1 and I2. If there are three loops, we have to adjust the terms. We have to substitute some terms so that V1 and V2 will become function of I1 and I2. Thank you.